What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of JohnnyVTV Live. I'm joined with me, my boys Kyle Donnelly and Nick Durst. What's good, fellas?
Another day, another dreadful sports story for me. It's ridiculous. I can't with Tennessee. It's beating a dead horse at this point. I don't even want to talk about it. Let's just move on. Nick, how you doing, buddy?
Well, doing okay. Can't complain. So very, very locked in right now on the Baseball Hall of Fame. So we'll see who's going to get in. I think nobody's going to get in this year. And be 2 years in a row that nobody gets in.
Can I just say that's like the weirdest thing ever, how you don't nominate somebody for the Hall of Fame. I can't stand, listen, as I consider myself a media journalist in some capacity, right? I just don't understand how a group of guys who never played the game are sitting there passing judgment on some of the best guys to ever suit up. And listen, obviously there's guys that shouldn't make the Hall of Fame, but there's clear cases for guys that should. And the fact of the matter is, on this ballot, if they don't vote anybody in, everybody should have their vote taken away. And then there's guys that only vote for one player. We give too much power to these people. And as we've seen, voters clearly, a lot of times they have personal grudges. Look what happened to Terrell Owens, because Terrell Owens wasn't a friend to the media for all those years. And, he came off as a bad guy to some people. They made him sweat it out and made him wait. So I don't understand how we can allow people like this to dictate who gets in to the most prestigious honor in each sport. It's just absolutely mind-boggling to me. No comment. You two.
Part of the problem is with the Baseball Hall of Fame right now is that a lot of the guys that are going in are part of the steroid era. When you got that dark cloud over everybody, that kind of. It puts an asterisk next to everybody's name. You were good, but how good were you really? Was it because you were a good baseball player? Let's face it, Barry Bonds was a great baseball player before, we started seeing him blow up in San Francisco after he gets traded out there from Pittsburgh. So, look, it is what it is. It's unfortunate to see. I hate to see somebody like Curt Schilling simply getting, shut out just simply because of his loud mouth. Let's just call it what it is. He's just got political views. He's just got a loud mouth where he should just kind of keep quiet sometimes. But you know what? It is what it is. Again, that's where like you said, Johnny, where the baseball writers have a little too much power and they're not just looking at somebody's numbers right there. And Curt Schilling, because let's face it, Curt Schilling is a two-time World Series winning pitcher. The guy pitched in one of the
most
greatest
wins in postseason history.
Thank you, Nick. And not only that, but one of those key important postseason wins was against the Yankees in Game 6 in New York with the bloody sock. And no, that was not fake blood.
Well, let me ask you this. I always wondered, because I heard about this, obviously Barry Bonds, right, with the steroids, but people are saying something about David Ortiz. I've never heard or remembered them coming out with anything about Ortiz. Was there ever anything proven?
He was in the Mitchell report, but that was not supposed to be leaked to the public. So,
but is the Mitchell report 100% accurate? Couldn't this guy have made up names, or if he decided he wanted to take somebody down?
Technically, he's never failed. He's never failed a test, so that's why he's basically innocent. But that's why everyone's saying maybe he's going to get in this year. He might, if he gets in, but then, it's going to be what about the other guys? So we'll see. It's going to be interesting.
I mean, Ortiz never, tested positive, right? And I mean, aside from being one of the best players of the generation and, one of the best hitters maybe this game has ever seen, he is one of the most clutch hitters and one of the best postseason performers. And we've seen guys that aren't great in the regular season, like Daniel Murphy, and then once the postseason comes, boom, they turn it on. But Ortiz went from great in the regular season to earth-shattering in the postseason. So I'm curious about that. But you know what? This is something, once we find out how everybody gets in and we have time to digest it, we could get into this next week. But
the problem is with that Mitchell report, though, John, real quick, is that it wasn't supposed to be leaked. It was an anonymous test amongst baseball to see. It was 103 players just to see how bad the drug problem was in the game at the time. And of course, like, you know, everybody's got to leak stuff out so that, you know, I got the source first, this, that, the, you know, it's a madhouse of information, these, especially, you know, back then, when it was really starting to come to the cusp of, you know, journalism. So yeah, that wasn't exactly supposed to be out there, and that was supposed to kind of control the problem, which MLB sort of did, and then obviously the 2009 scandal with A-Rod, that kind of blew a lid right back off it.
All right, let's get into that next week. We got football this week. It's conference championship, but before we get into the games this week, give me your quick reaction, Nick, on what you felt last week in arguably the greatest NFL weekend in history.
Yeah. Whatever. I mean, doesn't really matter to me. My team's not in it, so we got Joe Shane, so excited for that, and looking forward to Brian Daboll being the Giants head coach. But overall, for the weekend, I think things are a little overhyped as far as the games are concerned. You know, the 49ers-Packers game was not a good game. The score was close, though, in my opinion. So, you know, the Bengals, that was pretty good game, maybe not for Kyle. The Rams-Bucks game, everyone's saying it was such a great game. It really wasn't a great game. It was 2 runs, you know, and that was it. It wasn't like a back-and-forth battle. Now, maybe if it went to overtime, you could say, wow, what a great game. But the last game was a really good game. And, you know, it ultimately came down to just some blown coverages, a lot of these games, and stupid play calls. You know, you got to be, you can't be rushing the passer. You got to, you know, play cover 3, cover 2. You need to be squibbing the kicks. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy how dumb some of these coaches could be at the most inopportune times. And, you know, you're watching the Bills and Chiefs. I mean, Josh Allen was amazing. So nothing against him, of course. I mean, he did all he could possibly do. He didn't touch the ball. If he touches the ball, he's gonna score, no doubt about that. But I'm not saying let's change the overtime rules, because, you know, these are the rules, and it came down to a coin flip, which kind of sucked. But overall, you know, it was an interesting weekend. The dogs were barking a lot, and, you know, I just wanted to point out here that the Bills and Chiefs scored 25 points in the last 1 minute and 54 seconds of the game. The Giants scored 26 points over the final 4 games of their season, and Josh Allen threw for more yards in the final 2.5 minutes than the Giants did in the final 2.5 games. And you're watching that game, and you're just like, wow, these teams are playing different sports than the Jets and Giants. It just shows you how far off everybody else is, and I fully expect us to see Bills and Chiefs next year in the playoffs.
It's amazing that you say that, Nick, and they're from the same state, right? Yeah, the reason I say that, East Rutherford, New Jersey, I mean, come on, we all know that. So it's a worst kept secret in the NFL. That being said, you had the Rams-Bucks game. I mean, the Rams did everything to give that game away to the Bucks without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, the Bucks did not really deserve to be in that game at the end of the game, but they got there because of break after break after break. And I was looking at my wife watching that game, and I said, there's no way that Brady's coming back, because he's not on the Patriots anymore. He's not equipped with Bill Belichick. Well, he came pretty damn close. I mean, he came within like that much of making that game into overtime, and really,
well, they did technically come back, because they.
I mean, they did.
Score.
They did, but
win.
Well, I meant more of getting it. If it went into overtime, I felt like with the building and everything, it really would have started to create an atmosphere. And
I'm still confused by that whole Mike Evans situation. I mean, that was kind of game changing right there.
What do you mean?
You know, with the penalty, but it was after the pass.
That would have been the biggest bailout call. I got up, bro. I was sitting on my couch. I got up.
It was the right call, though. By the way, when they explained it,
it was the right call. But the fact that they would have the balls to say on 4th and 15, a ball that wasn't caught, that had no chance of being caught, we're going to give you the first down inside the 5-yard line. I ran up to my TV. I almost unplugged it and was ready to throw it off my balcony, because every single, Tom Brady is either the devil's favorite child or God's favorite child. I'm not sure which, but he gets everything go his way that he has nothing to do with. Like, he fumbles the ball from Von Miller, The next play, which, by the way, I have no idea why Sean McVay had Matthew Stafford lining up out of the gun in field goal range, because at that time, a field goal would have made it a 3-possession game with 6.5, 7 minutes to go, which probably would have put a stamp on this thing. Yet he lines up out of the gun. What happens? Stafford's making his adjustments. The center snaps it 20 yards over his head, and then, they get the ball right back. Bro. Oh, my God.
All right. Well, at least it's not your favorite team. I mean, you're rooting for the Rams and you have vested interest. I get it. But, it's not like your Falcons doing that where, your heart would be solely into that. So, but that's here nor there. The Packers game really surprised me this weekend. I mean, wow. Who really saw that? I mean, I heard the stat that Rodgers was 0-3 against the Niners going into the game. And now he's 0-4, and I've seen the meme going around where that picture where his helmet's like halfway off and he's looking all like stupid stone, and it's that picture of his face 0-4 against the Niners. Yeah, it's not good. I don't know what it is with Aaron Rodgers against his team in the playoffs. Maybe there's a reason that they didn't take him number 1 overall all those years back and took Alex Smith instead. That being said, Aaron Rodgers is bye-bye from Green Bay. It's over. Sayonara. He's not sticking around. He does not want to be there anymore. He clearly was ticked off with the Jordan Love pick, and it's kind of like ushering him out the door, and he doesn't want to be a part of it anymore. Tennessee, look, plain embarrassing, plain and simple. You're the number 1 seed. You're at home. Go take care of business. But I was kind of sick with the media how like nobody wanted to give Tennessee a chance in this game. Everybody wanted to see Joe Burrow win, so I'm just kind of disgusted by that. So I'm not going to talk about it anymore. And then the Chiefs-Bills game.
Derrick Henry sucked in that game. Should have just kept him on
IR. You know what? The problem was they also really didn't give him the ball as much, Nick. They kind of they got away from again, this is what the Titans do in the playoffs. They get away from the running game every time they're – you know what? Mike Vrabel can't win the big game, all right? Mike Vrabel cannot win the big game, and I'll tell you why. When they were the wild card team a couple years ago, they were underdog, no pressure, nothing. You get to the AFC Championship game. Now the stakes are high, and it's a big time, and it's Pat Mahomes. Couldn't win. Came up this small in that game. Again, you're the number 1 seed. You're at home. You got playoff advantage throughout the playoffs. Go beat the Bengals, who haven't won a road playoff game since whenever, 91 or whatever, 93.
How about just winning a playoff game?
Well, they did it the week before, so I got to give them credit there. But again, they haven't won a road playoff game since the 90s. Like, are we kidding me? Go take care of business. But again, and then I was so disgusted by the weekend. I didn't watch the Chiefs-Bills game. I just didn't want to be a part of football any longer. I was just tapped out.
I feel that.
I was over.
I was over it. I just got to say something about the Bengals real quick, and that is that Eli Apple is a freaking knucklehead. This guy sucks. He should shut the hell up, and he's an absolute moron.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you guys got to go on your little rant for 20 minutes. I'm just sitting here, twiddling my thumbs. But okay, first of all, let's do a quick recap. Mike Vrabel, he is a moron, dude. I don't know how you can overcome so much adversity in the regular season, losing Derrick Henry, Julio, AJ in and out of the lineup, only to take the lead against the Bengals. And guess what you do? You pull the cardinal sin and you take a point off the board, which proved to be the difference. They would have been up 17-16 had he not elected to go for 2 on that first touchdown, which, by the way, would have only put him up 2 points. Ultimately, would have changed the play calling. And, listen, the Bengals have gotten lucky all season. They've capitalized on it, but Tennessee should have won that game. And Henry looked okay for a little while. Like, listen, it's his first game back, and he's a guy that gets going in the fourth quarter. But Kyle's right. They get away from the run game every postseason. Niners, Packers, I predicted the Niners would absolutely cover that game. I thought they were live for the upset, but I did think Green Bay would probably pull it out ultimately. Aaron Rodgers doesn't do well against San Francisco for one reason, the matchup. That does not match up well. They never have. Look at all the previous matchups between these two teams. And ultimately, a lot of this blame's got to fall on Matt LaFleur. He's great in the regular season, but he's a choke artist in the postseason. He's too small in the moment. He just doesn't have the heart to pull it out when the chips are on the line. Because ultimately, every postseason game, he comes up small. And what he said out of halftime was, oh, we're not going to make adjustments. Now, don't get me wrong. Green Bay outplayed them for most of the game, and it was the special teams just choked it away for them. So, if Green Bay gets that punt off clean, the chances that the Niners go down and score twice, I like my chances for Green Bay to pull that one out. Rams, thank God you pulled it home. Big Daddy Stafford, prove why. He's the MVP. He's my MVP. Beat Tom Brady twice in the same season, putting up all kinds of numbers despite having way less pass attempts. The only guy who would feel comfortable to give it over him based off regular season would be Aaron Rodgers. But ultimately, Stafford to me is the MVP. This is the first time I will give a guy, with 17 picks, which, by the way, is kind of a box score stuff.
League leader, right?
One of. It's not an accurate reflection, honestly. If you've watched the games, a lot of it was 3rd and 20s. I'm throwing it up. It acted as a punt. I'm throwing it up. You know what I'm saying? Bills Chiefs, unbelievable game. Patrick Mahomes, he's just on another level, man. He is. But I don't know what the Bills were doing playing defense. They just let them do whatever they want. Kelsey hitting seam routes. I actually don't understand. Sean McDermott, man, that is unreal for the type of game on offense Josh Allen played. He did not deserve to go out like that. But you know what, man? We're moving on. It is what it is. We got the championship weekend Sunday. Nick, I'm going to kick it off with you. What are you thinking?
Well, I think the ratings are going to be lesser than usual. So I think we're going with the ratings. I think so. I think this is going to be. I think we're going to get some pretty poor football games here. It's going to come off the hype of this weekend. We're going to get some bad games. Rams Niners is going to be a gritty, dirty matchup, which is going to be pretty boring. A pretty boring game, I think. If I had to pick a game that I'm more interested in, I would pick the Bengals and Chiefs. Looking forward to that. I know you and Joe Calabrese have been going back and forth quite a bit on Twitter with that. All I could say is, I'm hoping for Joe Burrow to save us here. But, I really, that's why I was really rooting for the Bills, because I just feel like NFL needs to get some new young stars in the Super Bowl for a change at the quarterback position. It's been the same people outside of Jared Goff for years and years now. So it would be quite the story if the Bengals could pull this off and get to the Super Bowl. And I'm going to be interested to see what happens, because their offensive line stinks. And, Burrow, we talked about BDE a few weeks ago here. I mean, he gets sacked 9 times, doesn't matter. And, my emerged player of the night coming up later is the reason why the Bengals won that last game against the Titans anyway.
It's funny
that set a new NFL record. That set a new NFL record, by the way, Nick, in the postseason.
It's funny you say that, because let me tell you something. Since 2000, right? Since 2000, only four quarterbacks have started a Super Bowl in their second year. Tom Brady, Big Ben, Russell Wilson, and Colin Kaepernick. All of them have won it except for Kaepernick. Now, I'll say this. Joe Burrow has played awesome this year. He should be comeback player of the year. No question about it. He was the reason why Cincinnati is where they are right now. But let's call it what it is, man. Let's just be honest with ourselves. If they somehow beat the Chiefs twice in the same season, something no other team has done since Patrick Mahomes took over as the quarterback in 2018, whether they face the Niners or, they're going to face the Rams. They're going to face the Rams, Von Miller, Aaron Donald, and you got a better offense on the other side. Not to mention you got a guy like Jalen Ramsey, who I think could match up pretty well with Jamar Chase. I don't know. I'm not doubting he could get there, but if he does, I don't think he'll win it. I think he'll join Kaepernick in the list of guys that don't make it. Kyle, what say you?
I say this Super Bowl has already been decided 2 years ago when we saw Chiefs-Rams in the Monday Night Football game and 100 points were scored.
4 years ago.
Oh, it was 4 years ago? I'm sorry, 4 years ago.
2018, yeah.
Four scores 7 years ago.
Different games, different quarterbacks.
It doesn't matter. You know what? They got the idea. Oh, wouldn't this be interesting if we could get like these two teams on the field together for a Super Bowl? Yeah, that'd be great. That would get ratings. Yeah, all that great stuff. Yeah, points. Yeah. All these teasers and parlay bets and blah blah blah. No, I'm tired of it. I'm so sick of this. I can't stand it anymore. Give me the old school football that I had, in the late 90s and early thousands. Please give me that football back. I'll take that any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Okay. I'm sick of this. I can't stand it anymore. It's worse than WWE storylines with how predictable this crap is. All right. I can't do it anymore. I can't. I'm not going to pay attention. I hope that you all get Chiefs Rams and then you choke on it when they score a total 25 combined points.
Nobody cares, Kyle, as long as the Rams win.
How is this predictable? Johnny, didn't 3 underdogs win this weekend?
They did. They won outright.
That's not predictability, right?
3 underdogs won outright this week. So you know what? Kyle, you're muted. Don't you dare. You're muted. Jesus. Nick, kick us off here. Bengals, Chiefs. Chiefs at home, laying 7 in the AFC Championship game. It's a rematch from that fireworks show these two teams put on when the Bengals came back, won it on a game-winning drive, 34-31. Where's your head at?
Common sense would say the Chiefs are going to win after we just saw, but my head's going with my heart here, and I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals, smoking Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and my guy, Big Leg McPherson, leading the Bengals to victory. This guy is the next big thing in the NFL as far as kickers are concerned. And I think that the Chiefs still haven't figured out a way to stop Jamar Chase from a few weeks ago. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen there. And I think just somehow, some way, this seems to be like a team of destiny here with the Bengals. And they're going to figure out some sort of way to get to the Super Bowl here over the Chiefs.
Well, the Boomer Esiason championship game takes place on Sunday because he is so in love with Patrick Mahomes and his old team, the Cincinnati Bengals. Look, as far as I'm concerned, Bengals are going to keep this one tight. But it's going to be the Chiefs all the way, put the mortgage on it. 3 years in a row, Pat Mahomes. Everybody complained about Brady. Wah. I don't want to see Brady anymore. Wah. Now you get 3 years of Mahomes in a row. How's that? Are you a hypocrite yet? Rooting for Pat Mahomes, people? And then guess what? It's the same damn thing as Brady was. The same thing. Please.
Kyle, are you off your meds tonight? What's going on?
Kyle's bitter.
I'm so insanely bitter because, like what Johnny alluded to earlier in the show, was how can you be so stupid of a head coach? You know what? You know where his head was at? His head was at where his kid was on the toilet bowl.
You know what Tony Reali does on Around the Horn? This is what I'm doing. Timeout. Yep. You're on timeout. I would deduct a point or 2 or 5 if we implemented that system here. In any case, he's right. The Chiefs, honestly, bro, the Chiefs are going to win this one because the Bengals probably shouldn't have won the first time. They played great, but the lapses of covers they had, they're like, honestly, should have been on an SNL skit with letting Jamar Chase one-on-one. Maybe Steve Spagnuolo will think twice before doing that. Letting Jamar Chase one-on-one with third-string corners. Like, no, bro. Like, Ward, Snead. No, man. These guys can't hang with Jamar Chase. Like, you got to double this cat. Then, you know what? Then you got to let the chips fall where they may with guys like T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. Like, that's just the fact of the matter. But I think ultimately Patrick Mahomes comes out. He's going to put up at least a 30 being here. The 7 points scares me right now because one of two things is going to happen. The Bengals take this down to the wire like they did last week, or they get blown out of the water. So what I probably like, I think I like to wait for a live bet situation because, dictating whatever happens here, you could kind of play it to your advantage. If the Chiefs get down 13 points, 14 points, they're going to be a solid live bet. I would like that because they're going to come back. I just don't like the 7 points. That's kind of scary a little bit. So that's something I would stay away for now. I'd probably look at a Kansas City team total first, which I have to imagine is going to be 29.5, 30.5 points, something along those lines. But I think Kansas City will probably put up 34 points most likely. So, I'm probably tentative to take that. And the over-under, It just seems too good to be true. Another 54-point game. We've seen the Bengals. The Bengals have had trouble scoring at times this year in the playoffs, right? They only put up 19 points against Tennessee. They put up 26 against Vegas, but they kind of went on a stalling drive. They were stalling in the red zone. They had to kick field goals like 3 different times. You can't do that against Kansas City. You could get away with it versus Vegas. All right, Kyle, you can speak.
I was just going to say that I agree with you with the Chiefs' total points, that I really think that 30 could be the mark that they really hit. I like them for, 35 even if especially if their defensive line is really missing a chunk like they were against the Titans. But, that clearly didn't matter against Tennessee, so we'll see what happens, I guess.
Kyle, kick us off here with the nightcap. The 49ers at the Rams, the 3 match where the Rams are laying 3.5 at home, over under set at 46 points as of right now. Where are you going?
It's the Rams. It's over, Johnny. It's the Rams. Done deal. Seal it. Send it in the mail. Put a nice bow on it. Send it home.
Nick, I want to hear your thoughts about hating on Matthew Stafford once again.
Yeah, I think Stafford's going to have you sweat this one out. 49ers will cover, but the Rams will win this one, and the Rams will go to the Super Bowl.
So on PointsBet earlier today, the line moved from 3.5 to 3 for a short while. So I'm guessing a lot of people bought back on the Rams, which pushed it back to 3.5, right? Ultimately, no secrets. I've been a Rams believer for how long, guys? June, July, August. Like, I've been on the Rams all summer. Put a nice futures bet on them. I upped it right after they beat Arizona. So
even after Cam Akers went down early on in training camp, and we thought that he might not even be here this year.
Yeah, I'm all in on LA, dude. There was no question about it. The 3.5 worries me a tad, but ultimately, man, it's funny. I look back at the last 7 or 8 matchups between San Francisco. The final scores in those games, they're either 3 or less points or 8 or more. So there's no 4 through 7 gap that these two teams finish at. Ultimately, what I think is going to happen is, since 2009, I should say, only one team has beaten an opponent 3 times in the same season. That was the Cowboys versus the Eagles. I just don't think it's going to happen here. I think the Rams take this one. I think they're going to win by 6 or 7 points. They're going to cover the spread. Hopefully we get a 3 because that's a very favorable number. I do love LA to advance. And honestly, if you're looking to dabble in the prop market, as always, I recommend taking Eli Mitchell over carries. I haven't seen a number yet. I'm probably going to say it's 18.5 or 19.5. I think he's getting at least 20 carries because he's got 21 carries or more in 6 of his last 7 games. And he should have hit his over last week, but they decided to put Debo in for whatever reason to close this one out. And also Cam Akers on a bounce back, too. Cam Akers had 2 fumbles. It almost cost his team the game. I think he's going to come back on a revenge tour this week, and he's going to put up 150 total yards and 2 scores. I think he's in for a big one. Rams, minus 3.5. Rams money line. Your Honor, no objections.
49ers got to bring back Jimmy G, because if you go to Trey Lance next year, that means you're saying he's going to get us to the Super Bowl. That's the only way that it'd be a better improvement.
And that's setting up insanely high expectations for a kid to come into that just doesn't have the NFL experience. You know what I mean?
I'll just say this, though. Okay, yeah, wins and losses are kind of an overrated quarterback stat, and they've always been. But now with the super analytical people and the sabermetrics and all this garbage and crap, I mean, this is one of those things that should fall in that category. Same way that maybe a few years ago, baseball decided that pitcher wins don't mean anything anymore, when that's all anybody ever cared about for, since we were growing up. Maybe in 2016, 2017, they decided pitcher wins don't mean anything anymore. Yeah, well, where was that when King Felix was winning only 11 or 12 games, when we were kids?
He won a Cy Young at 11 and 10.
He did. But, if you pitched on the
He
Yankees,
broke the mold. I think he was the guy that ended the win-loss total.
I don't know if he did that. I think maybe once, because he was just so leaps and bounds better over everybody. But honestly, dude, if he pitched for the Yankees during that stretch, he would have had 6 Cy Youngs and probably 7 championships, because there was few pitchers as dominant as he was. But I'm not getting off track here. Ultimately, though, I think the quarterback wins and losses thing, it's got to be dialed down a little bit. Jimmy Garoppolo, even though he would be bagging groceries if he wasn't the most handsome player in the NFL, he's still a captain of the ship that a lot of times just doesn't make the big mistake. He keeps his team in position, just does enough for them to be in a winning spot in the crucial moments of the game. But honestly, guys, let's get to my favorite segment of the night. We got the Gambling Guineas Best Betting Trend. I was on fire last week. We got Gasparilla this week. We got winners on Sunday. Let's go. It's no secret. Rams -3. I'll lay the 120 on points bet. I got it at 3. Sounds like a you problem if you didn't. Versus San Francisco 49ers. Going to beat them 3 times in one season? I don't think so. Sean McVay, Big Daddy Stafford, let it fly, baby. He's been on fire in the postseason, coming off a game-winning drive against Tampa Bay, snatching it from the jaws of defeat. Your Honor, no objections. Love that. I just absolutely love that. You know what? I really do. Rams, man, I'm just so excited. One more win, and then I'm gonna throw my life savings on LA if they get to the Super Bowl here, or when they get to the Super Bowl. But I understand, Kyle, you have an Emerge Player of the Night that you would like to debut, brought to you by our boy Jay Hen and Emerge Sports Group.
Oh, yes, the Emerge Player of the Night. That would be Mr. Evan McPherson.
That was mine. I put that in the doc. It's Kyle taking credit here for my guy.
Well, then why don't you take the Player of the Night here, Mr.
Did you change player? Did you change Emerge Player of the Night on me? Because
that did happen on the script. Why don't you look there, sir? And that wasn't me. That wasn't me. That was Mr. Nicholas Durst. But
I went in. There was nobody there. So.
I like what you got in mind here. So why don't you take it, sir?
I want to know who Kyle had now. Which New Jersey Devil was going to be in the Emerge Player of the Night?
It wasn't New Jersey Devil. It was going to be Pat Mahomes. It was just going to be Pat Mahomes.
I thought it was supposed to be Pat Mahomes.
It was going to be Pat Mahomes, but that's so bland and simple because it's like, oh, it's going to be the Chiefs quarterback 3 years in a row. They're going to get there. If they're going to win the Super Bowl, it's going to be because of Pat Mahomes.
Okay, all right, fine. Go with Evan McPherson.
Dude, I'm over football at this point. Like I'm so tight over that weekend.
It's Emerge Player of the Night, and we're sponsored by Emerge Sports Group. Nobody cares about your problems.
Hey, Jayhen.
All right, Evan McPherson. This guy is the next best kicker in the league. And we know it's Tucker time right now, but McPherson has been super clutch. This is the only kicker drafted this season. They used a 5th-round pick on him, too, which is pretty damn high. And he's been delivering all year. He's the reason they won many games. Ask the Chiefs. And I think history is going to repeat itself from last week. Kyle, you saw it firsthand. This guy was knocking in every single kick. He hasn't missed one this postseason. I think he's going to get at least 3, maybe 4 field goals in this game. And for the Bengals, they better hope that's enough because the Chiefs are probably going to score touchdowns. But McPherson, undoubtedly the second best kicker in the National Football League right now, in my opinion. But tell us about Patrick Mahomes.
No, I'm not going to talk anymore about Pat Mahomes. I already said what I needed to say. But I will say this about Mr. Evan McPherson. Did you hear what he said when he went out to go kick that field goal? Wow. I mean, that's ice in his veins as a kicker. Go figure, right?
That's BDE for sure. So they have it in their quarterback and their kicker, 2 guys that they go to with the game on the line. That's pretty important. That's pretty important. Nick, kick us off here with your final thoughts for the evening.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Odell Beckham Jr. Guy's incredible. He turned the Rams season around. He's a huge reason for their success. And let's hope he gets paid big time this offseason. I don't know if the Rams are going to bring him back. They got to try all they can. But Kyle, he's going to look really good in that Bucs uniform next year with Tom Brady throwing the ball, or maybe Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball if the new Bucs quarterback. David Ortiz made the Hall of Fame. He's the only guy who made it, which makes no sense. Kurt Schilling should have been a Hall of Famer. He's off the ballot now. And you got Manny didn't get enough votes, of course. No Sosa. A-Rod only got 30%. And now Bonds and Clemens off the ballot with around 60%. Pretty crazy stuff there. No doubt about it. And, really, my final thought, I just want to have a question here for Johnny V. I want to know his thoughts on the halftime act for the Super Bowl this year.
I literally couldn't care less. I'll probably It's a half hour, so I'll probably bang out an episode of Eastbound and Down. I think the Super Bowl halftime show is the biggest atrocity in all of sports. I hate it. I don't care about the musical performances. It's all for people that don't care about football, that don't watch the games, that don't put in the blood, sweat, and tears. It's all nonsense. It's garbage. And what makes it worse is that it changes how the game is played. It's a half hour. It's not 10 minutes. It's not 15 minutes. It's a half hour plus in a halftime show, which, a football player could tell you all season long, your halftime is 10, 15 minutes, right? Now you come out in the biggest game of your life, and you have a 30, maybe 40-minute halftime. Like, have you ever – let me ask you this. Have you ever played pickup basketball?
Absolutely.
Right, you play pickup basketball, right? And, you're getting some good running. Let's say you run 2 straight games. And then what happens? You're all hot. You're warmed up. You're loose. And then
your team just lost, and now you're going to sit down.
Your team just lost. Now you got to sit out 1 or maybe 2 games. You try to get back up to go play again. That's tough, man. That's tough.
Cold as ice.
Yeah, exactly. You get iced.
What if Alesso did the halftime show?
Like, bro, if he played Calling Lose My Mind, I'd be like, all right, we're good. Like, we're okay here, but I still don't like it because, like, let's say the Rams are playing the Chiefs and the Rams have a great half. Let's say the Rams get up 14-10. They're playing really good. Then the halftime show sets in. None of these guys really have been to a Super Bowl except for a few players. But like Stafford's never played in a Super Bowl. He's the most important guy. And now, like, hypothetically, like, what if he's hot in the first half and in the second half, like over halftime, he gets iced up a little bit.
What if there's
like,
a blackout?
It's tough to stay loose. I don't like that. I personally hate the halftime show. I know it's all about the money. It's $5 million.
Do you bet on the national anthem?
Every year you bet on the over. Every year the over on the national anthem.
I'm going over all day, bro. The problem is a lot of these singers, like, I don't know how they're gonna sing it. Like, you gotta get one of these singers that just belts out the high notes and they hold it for like an extra 5 seconds. Honestly, that'd be the easiest thing to handicap if you knew who these singers were. If you knew who it was, you'd be like, yo, like, honestly, like, hold those notes like an extra, each high note, hold it like a couple seconds extra. Just get this thing over like 2:10. Get this thing over 2 minutes, 10 seconds, and like, we're good. It's absolutely crazy. But like all these ridiculous bets on the Super Bowl, I love them.
The thing with the national anthem, it's actually pre-recorded, the voice track. So somebody can make some major dough on that if they're really recording.
Is that right?
Well, I had Constantine Maroulis on my podcast. He said anytime he's saying it, they've always pre-recorded it because they have to time the flyover exactly. So when they hit play and they lip sync it, then the flight knows, like, okay, in 1 minute and 58 seconds, that's when you have to be over the stadium. That's what he told me. I don't know if it's true for everybody, but
is that in the Super Bowl or just all games?
He said all games, even the Super Bowl.
Because I always wondered, how do they time the flyover?
He said they pre-record it and like they lip sync it.
So if they pre-recorded it, that means they probably were in the studio and they like.
Right. So whoever's mixing it could bet $100,000 on that.
Dude, I need to know who these people are, because that is an extraordinary insight that I have to look into. Because quite honestly, if that's the case, just put me in the booth and let me do the national anthem. Nobody's gonna know the difference with all the technology. If we can make Migos and Quavo like a musicianal god, like, why can't I do it? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, like, it don't make no sense. Like, a lot of these people, especially like these like new hip hop artists, these new singers, like whatever, like a Noah Cyrus is or something like that. Like, I think, or Lil Xan, or
right over my head.
I don't know what what
Miley's sister, Noah Cyrus, right?
Yeah, like I could do that if that's the case. Then I'll give up. I'll stop selling. I'll stop writing up
insider betting for Johnny. If he get like a production job, like on the Golden Globes, and he knows all the winners, and he can bet on the Oscars and just clean house.
Oh, there's probably a huge NDA as betting got legalized. There's got to be a huge like NDA. Like, you can't text anybody the winners, and like they probably have all your phones. You have to have like a super creative system. Like, you have to have burner phones and like all these different types of things. Like, code words. It's so probably
If I ever host the show, I'll come out and I'll be like, if I scratch my left ear, I'll give you a sign to the right ear.
But you just gave it away. So like you just literally
who's gonna come back to this?
We'll talk about it after the show, fellas.
Yeah, we'll talk about it after the show. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. I'm at _JohnnyVTV. He's at Nick_Durst. Kyle doesn't have a Twitter. I don't know, but we'll be back next week. We're going to mix it up, maybe do a little preview for the Super Bowl. Hopefully it's the Rams. And yeah, maybe we'll talk a little bit of baseball too. Why David Ortiz was the only guy to get in the Hall of Fame this year.
Big Papi.
Good for him, though. I love David Ortiz, bro. I love David Ortiz. But that'll do it for us. Thanks for watching. Catch you next week.